Hey, Andy here from buildahottub.com. In this video, we're going to take a look at how we can build a hot tub out of cinder blocks. So let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, so building a hot tub out of cinder blocks, in my opinion, is one of the easiest ways that you can build your own hot tub in your backyard. It's much easier than a poured concrete structure, and it's certainly much easier than something like a shotcrete or a gunite, which is really only for the pros and not for us DIYers. So a cinder block hot tub is most definitely the way you should be looking to build your own hot tub for your backyard. So before you even get to lay any cinder blocks, the first thing you're going to have to do is get a really rock solid plan ready to go. Without a plan, you are going to fail. It's going to cost you loads of money to fix. We don't want to do that. So the first thing that you've really got to do is plan your hot tub. And I don't just mean the size and the shape, which are obviously important. Now, if you're building out of cinder blocks, it goes without saying that building rectangles or squares is much easier than trying to build a cylindrical form of a hot tub. If you are a pro bricklayer, then obviously go for it. Get those curves in there. They look fantastic. But for us mere mortals, it's much easier. Just stick to a regular shape, maybe an L shape, a rectangle, a square, something that's a lot easier to put together with those cinder blocks. Are you going to be above or in ground? This is something to think about. If you're going to be in ground, then you've got a means of covering up your pipes anyway. You can either backfill with concrete or they'll be below the surface, so you're not going to see them if you put some coping tiles across the top. However, if you are building above ground, you're going to need a means of covering up those pipes. So the pipe work will be on the outside of your cinder block, and you're going to need either a wooden form that you can then tile, or you can use wood to cover up and make it look really nice finish, or you can build a second skin of wall. So when you are building a cinder block hot tub, you need to think whether it's above or in ground and how you're actually going to finish it off. So even right at the planning stage, you need to be thinking, how will it look once I've put all of that plumbing in and completed the actual tub itself? How big is it going to be? How much water is it going to hold? So these are key points, because you're going to need to then match up a pump and a heater and a filter that is the right size for the body of water that you are looking to heat. If you end up with a body of water that's too big and you put a too small heater in, it's either going to take forever to get up to temperature, or it just won't get to temperature. That's totally possible as well. So you've really got to bear in mind that the heater needs to match the body of water that you are going to heat when you're planning that cinder block hot tub. What's the layout going to be like in terms of seats? Are you going to have your seats all the way round? Are you going to have any jets in your seats at all? How many jets are you going to have? So these are all considerations that we need to think about at the planning stage, because again, if you've watched this channel or you've read my blog on buildahottub.com, you'll know that 16 jets is around the maximum that you can have on a single pump. The reason that we have those 16 jets, each of the jets that we use for our cinder block hot tubs require around 10 gallons per minute of flow. So 16 jets, 10 each, 160 gallons per minute. If we work back to the actual pump that we're going to look at, if you look at a 3 to 4 horsepower, you'll see that they will put out somewhere around 200 to 220 gallons per minute without any resistance at all. As soon as you add in some pipe work, if you've got any height changes, you're going to add water resistance, which is going to decrease that flow. So you need to make sure that you've got a minimum of 160 gallons per minute entering your hot tub so that you can power all of those jets at full speed. Kind of makes sense, but it's something you really must think about at the planning stage, because it's really hard to go back and fix later on. Where is your control room going to be? Is it going to be above or below ground? Now, if it's below ground, that's totally fine. You can use regular hot tub pumps. If it's above ground, then you're going to need to use swimming pool grade self-priming pumps, because hot tub pumps are not designed to suck air in any way. So if you have a hot tub pump which is above the waterline, there's no way that gravity can actually feed that pump. The pump itself can't suck the air out of the way to get to the water. It won't prime up, it won't work, and your jets will not run. So if you're going to be above ground with your control room, you're going to need to have a self-priming pump in there. Self-priming pumps are designed to suck air, and they will draw that water from your tub into the pump. It will prime itself up and you'll be good to go, and it will work exactly how you expect it to. Now, another thing to consider with your control room is how far away is it going to be from your Cinder Block hot tub. Now, if it's too far away, again, you could end up with a decreased flow rate. To combat that, you can use bigger pipes, you can use bigger pumps, but again, at the planning stage, you need to do all of these calculations to work out exactly what size pump you need, what size plumbing you need, to make sure that you've got the right amount of flow, the right amount of water going into those jets to give you that whole hot tub experience that you're looking to build for yourself. At the planning stage, you probably want to think about how you're going to heat your Cinder Block hot tub. Are you going to use electric? Now, electric is the easiest by far to put in. It's also the slowest in terms of heating the actual water up from cold. Are you going to use gas or propane? These are by far the fastest means of getting your hot tub up to temperature. They actually cost a little bit more on the initial outlay to buy the kit, and you've also got to have those gas lines or a tank available on your property and at the location of the hot tub control room. So that's something to think about. What about an air source heat pump? Again, these are pretty expensive to buy if you're going to buy a good quality one from the outset, but they will run at somewhere around a third of the cost of running on electric. So it's well worth the investment. And if it were me and I went back again to rebuild my Cinder hot tub, I would definitely put an air source heat pump in, because it is much more economical than just running on the electric, as I do and have been for the last number of years. How are you going to fill and empty your Cinder Block hot tub? Now, it's not a huge issue here, because you obviously can run a hose pipe down your garden or your backyard to actually fill it, but you are going to need to empty the tub from time to time. You can't put that water, because it's going to be full of chemicals, onto your lawn or your flower bed, so you're going to need to dispose of it into a drain. Are you going to be able to pump it away with a submersible pump into your regular drains of your property? Again, it's just something to think about, because what you don't want to do is be stuck with a tub full of water and no means of emptying it, because over time you will need to change that water around about once a year. Some people change it a lot more, certainly on the plastic shell tubs. They're a lot smaller, so they do get changed a lot more regularly, but our in-ground Cinder Block built tubs will be changed roughly once a year. I'm sure there'll be somebody that will say in the comments that we should be changing it more than that. If you look after your water, you don't need to change it that often. But again, it does come down really to personal preference. How deep are we going to have the hot tub? So we're kind of jumping around here, but the depth of the hot tub is going to be kind of important. For me, I always have the water height at around 90 centimeters to the middle of that skimmer, or 39.5 inches. That's about the right kind of a height to be able to sit, to be able to lounge, have the water up to your shoulders, of a sort of average height. Well, I say I'm average height, but some would say I'm quite short at 5'9.5". Don't forget that half. However, the height of that water is important. You don't want it too deep, because it's then going to be uncomfortable to sit in. So somewhere around 90 centimeters or 39.5 inches is where you want to aim for to get that water at that perfect height. It goes without saying, if you need any help at the planning stage, there are plans on the website. I'll put the link below that you can purchase, and there's lots of information there as well that's super helpful when you're building that Cinder Block hot tub. It's tried and tested, these methods. There's over 250 customers have used these now, so it's super helpful. It will save you time and money. The link will be below this video. So Next steps, we've got our planning done, we've got the layouts, we know how big, how deep we need to go. First things first, we need to clear the area. And as you can see behind me, the easiest way to do that is to get a small digger or a small JCB in there to be able to clear the area that you need to dig the hole for your hot tub. Now, for me, when I did mine, I couldn't get any of this large machinery into my backyard, so I had to do it by hand. It's totally possible. It's back-breaking work, and if you're going to do that, I would definitely recommend buying yourself a breaker. It makes life a lot easier if you have to dig the hole, as I did, manually by hand. However, if you can get some machinery in there, it's well worth renting. It will save you some time, and it will definitely save you a sore back in the process. Once you've cleared the area, you're ready to lay your hot tub slab or pad, whatever you want to call it. So the pad itself, it should be made up of firstly some crushed rock or type 1 ballast that is then flattened and pounded and compacted into the ground. And that should be a couple of inches thick, minimum, ideally around 4 inches thick. Next, you're going to build a wooden frame that is then going to house the concrete that you're going to pour for your pad. Now, the concrete itself needs to be around 4 inches minimum, ideally 6 inches, which is 10 to, I think it's 15 centimeters thick. And inside of that, you're going to have a rebar structure, as you can see behind me. Underneath all of that, you're going to have a damp-proof membrane. Now, the membrane is there not to keep the water in, but it's more to keep the water ingressing into your tub. So it's keeping water out. The membrane itself, you can use a construction damp-proof membrane that you would find in a hardware store for building, or you can actually use a pond liner as well. They're quite cheap, just a PVC material, just a plastic sheet there that's going to go underneath all of your base, and it's going to keep that water out of your concrete. With the rebar itself, you can see that it doesn't actually sit on the ground, it's lifted up. You can either do that with, you can get little plastic holders that will hold that sheet of mesh off the floor, or you can just use rocks. And as long as that concrete can go above and below your rebar, so the rebar is roughly in the center of your slab, you're going to have a perfectly level slab. Before you actually pour the concrete, those wooden framed edges, you're going to use your spirit level to make sure that that's perfectly level. So once you've poured it, you can then just skim right over the top, right down to that wooden level, and you will know that you'll end up with a perfectly level slab when you've finished. One thing to think about with your slab before you pour it is that you may want to tie in your cinder block work, certainly if you're using the hollow blocks, into the slab for additional strength. So you may want to, as you can see behind me here, have some actual vertical rises of rebar coming out of the slab so that you can then use those to drop your blocks over, and then you would then fill those blocks with the cement once the course was up to the level that you needed for the tub. And that just gives you a super strong structure that's going to then hold all of that water inside of your cinder built hot tub. When you're building your cinder block hot tub, generally you would build the exterior wall first, and then you would probably put in the retaining wall for the seats. And you can see that behind me here, because once you have those, you're going to fit the plumbing before you then fill in those seats, especially if you're going to put any jets into the footwells. This is the time that you're going to do it. You're going to need to core out those holes where you're going to fit those gunite bodies. That 2.5 inch pipe will go from the outside of the tub into the tub. You'll then have that wall niche on the front. Your jet will go inside of that, and you'll have a fantastic combination of air and water that's entering your tub to create those bubbles and that hot tub experience. I'm not going to go too much on this video into the plumbing. I'll put a link underneath the video where I explain all about the plumbing for a DIY hot tub. That's whether it's concrete poured or cinder block, as we're talking about in this video. but I go into all of the details of the plumbing in that video, and you'll find a link below this one if you would like more information on the plumbing side of the hot tub. Now, with cinder block hot tubs, whether you're in ground or above ground, you're going to want to have some form of insulation. And what you'll find is the best way of doing this is using the structured insulated panels. These come from companies like Celotex or Kingspan, and they're those foam boards that have foil either side, and they come in around a 4-inch thick or 10 centimeters. And this is the perfect size, again, as you can see behind me, to fit underneath and around all of your plumbing. So when you come to put in that second skin that's going to cover up the plumbing, whether it's brick, whether it's a frame with a wooden cabinet created, either way, it will cover up your insulation as well, but it just increases that R value, and obviously it will decrease the running costs of your hot tub when you're actually using it. Once you've got the insulation in place and you've got your jets in place, the next thing you're going to do is probably fill in your seats. You can always put in some additional blocks to take up the space. You don't need to totally fill that with concrete if you don't wish to. However, it can be easier just to fill it with concrete, as you can see behind me here, just to fill in those seats. Once you've filled in your seats, the next step is you're going to want to start the waterproofing process of your tub. Now, I would definitely recommend using a chemical agent of some description in your actual mortar mix. So everything that you are doing with that water mix, you're trying to reduce the amount of air, because it's the air in that mix that causes it to be porous. You add the waterproofing agent and it reduces the air and it makes it a little bit more waterproof. You definitely want to be skimming the surface with that just to seal off your blocks, and you're probably going to want to treat that as well with either a paint or a sealant. There's lots of different companies that do these kind of things. Sika is one of the brands that you can find at the likes of Home Depot or B&Q. Any really good hardware store, you'll be able to find these brands that you can simply paint these onto your surface to seal up the concrete. Now, the main waterproofing comes from the finish, and that finish could be a painted swimming pool grade epoxy that then will give you that painted finish, but it has that epoxy resin into the paint, so it's a waterproofing paint at the same time. However, most people that are going to build a cinder block hot tub will actually finish it with the swimming pool mosaic tiles. Now, the thing to remember with those swimming pool mosaic tiles is you're going to want to use a waterproof grout. Usually it's a grout and adhesive in one, so you actually just need one mix, but it has to be swimming pool grade. It can't be wet room or bathroom, because they're only designed for a little bit of water, whereas the swimming pool grade is actually designed to be submersed continually in water. So you don't want those tiles lifting off after a short period of time. So make sure you're using the correct grout or adhesive to put those tiles onto your tub. What I would say with the tiles is make sure you read the instructions on the grout itself. Most of these require a curing period of anything up to 3 weeks. I know it will be the longest 2 or 3 weeks of your life while you're waiting to actually fill and get into your tub, but it's well worth taking the time to do it properly. Don't cut corners. Make sure you check the curing period before you fill your tub. When you fill your tub, you're going to want to fill it from the highest point on your tub. It's normally the skimmer that you're going to use to fill that. The reason that you do it is just to stop airlocks. They're not as common in a cinder block hot tub as they are in some of the plastic shell. The plumbing is a lot larger, so it's harder to actually get an airlock in this kind of a setup than it is in the plastic shell tubs. But it's just good practice to fill through the skimmer so that you're not creating any airlocks in the cinder block hot tub itself. And at that point, you've filled, you're going to heat up, and then you're ready to test and enjoy. So hopefully you found this video useful. If I can be of any assistance at all, there's links underneath this video for my DIY hot tub course. There's plans on the website. There's lots and lots of information that you can purchase to assist your Cinder Block hot tub build. If you would like a custom design, please get in touch. I can help you with that too. And of course, I can help with the part supply, everything that you need to build your own Cinder Block hot tub in your backyard. I hope you found this video useful. I'll see you on the next video. If you've liked this video, please do like, share and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on the next video.